Good afternoon, folks. Robert Chappell here, Executive Editor, Madison365, with your daily update for Monday, March 14th. Let's hit the COVID numbers first, just because those are remarkably better, I guess. The first, the sort of the headline number for me, which has always been this kind of, you never want to look at just one number, right, in isolation, but you look at a sort of all the context of things. But sort of, if you had to pick one number that's most important, it gives you the best picture of what's going on statewide. It's the percent of positive tests, right? And you want that to be about 3%. 2 months ago, it was nearly 30. Today, it's 2.9, right? 3% is kind of the magic number. Where if you're below 3%, it means you're testing enough. Not very many cases. You have it kind of under control to some extent. So 2.9%. It's pretty good news. It's been slowly, it came down really sharply and has been kind of slowly leveling off right around that 3% mark as of Friday. So it continues to drop over the weekend, which is good news. The other piece of good news, well, a couple other pieces of good news. 341 is our current 7-day average of new cases, which is down considerably. Today, Mondays are always low, right? Just because not as many tests are happening or stuff being processed on the weekends. But today is 55 new cases confirmed today. 55. That's bad news for those 55 people for the most part. But that's a really low number. We haven't been below 3 digits in a year almost. So that's pretty decent. The 0 confirmed deaths on Sunday. Our death reported average, these are deaths that are confirmed today, each day, not that happen each day, is still at 10, which is where it was on Friday. Hospitalizations also continue to fall. We're now at 248 people currently hospitalized. That's 118 lower than last Monday. So, pretty sizable decrease. That's 28 lower than just yesterday even. ICU population is up slightly just from yesterday. It was 50 yesterday. Today's 53. But it's down by 14 over the past week. So generally still a downward trend, even if there's one day, a little blip or one day. So now we do know all those numbers are good. We do know also just anecdotally that there are, sporadic outbreaks, especially among like daycare centers. There's a lot of kids that can't get vaccinated. There are a lot of kids who are like 9, 10, 11, who are basically, as far as COVID is concerned, can catch it and spread it as good as adults can. But they only got a third of the dose of the vaccine because they're under 12. So they're also vulnerable. So we didn't win yet. Okay. Still got to keep, stay vigilant. And also we know that there's a massive province of China that's been shut down now because of a surge there. I don't know a lot about it. I don't trust a lot of the information coming out of there. So I know China has in the past year or two had this kind of like zero COVID policy where like one case they'll shut down an entire province. So it's hard to say if there's really a surge there. It is concerning. Okay, so we will keep an eye on that. So take it with all the grains of salt. The news here today is good. And we'll keep an eye on it in the future. Now, let's move to some other stuff that's happening at Madison365.org. We have our 3rd annual list of the most influential Native American leaders. We do this for, we've done this for Black and Latino leaders since our beginning, back in 2015, 16. And just in 2020, we started doing it with Asian American leaders as well as Indigenous leaders. And so this is our 3rd annual Native American list. We have 39 this year. Today is just the first installment. There are 7 just today. So we have a music professor, we have a business leader, we have a language keeper. One thing we learned, and when we did this the first time, usually when you talk about most influential people, you're talking about CEOs, elected officials, those kind of folks, founders of nonprofits, things like that. And we did that, and those people are definitely influential, right? But we also learned that in Indigenous communities, what we learned is looking at influence like that is a pretty sort of mainstream, frankly, white lens. right? And indigenous communities, influence is measured differently. And obviously every indigenous community is slightly different. There are 11 federally recognized nations in this state, and there are other folks who live in Wisconsin who are members of other nations. But we were told to, take a look at the elders, the culture keepers, the people with that sort of generational knowledge that may never get elected to anything, but who are, in many ways, the most influential people. So we're happy to be able to include some of those folks as well this year. So take a look at that. It's at Madison365.org. If you're on our email list, you would have gotten an email today with today's installment. You'll get another email tomorrow. If you're a member of the fam, you get the email early. You learn who's on the list each day. Like if you're a member of the fam, you'll get tomorrow's list tonight. Little perk, maybe worth $5 a month. I don't know. So in any case, you'll all get it, and it'll be up every day this week, Monday through Friday. Also today, Willie Hines Jr. is the new executive director and secretary of the Housing Authority of the City of Milwaukee. Believe it or not, he is the first Black executive director of that agency. He's had that role as an interim basis since May of 2021. So he's been at the helm for, about 10 months now. And it was just Friday, officially named to that role on a permanent basis. So congratulations to him. He's, as I said, the first Black person to run that agency. He's also the first former resident of public housing to run Milwaukee's Public Housing Authority. He's also a former alderman and nonprofit executive as well. Speaking of public housing, Jimmy Banks there in the middle holding the trophy. He grew up in public housing, started playing soccer in public housing, and then went on to represent the United States in the World Cup. And played for the Milwaukee Wave for many years, coached at Milwaukee School of Engineering for 20 years, and died very young at the age of 54 in 2019. An effort began last fall to rename Custer High School Stadium after him to Jimmy Banks Memorial Stadium. That's where he went to high school. And that Custer Stadium, which is now Barack Obama High School, but it's still called Custer Stadium. That's the home field for actually several different high school soccer programs. The administration, the superintendent, Keith Posley, recommended to the board that they rename, this is after talking to Jimmy Banks' family and sons, who have two of whom are still in Milwaukee, one of whom's in Nashville, and his family and his the people behind this effort. What they're recommending is to rename the field Jimmy Banks Field at Custer Stadium, and that item will be up for a vote tomorrow evening at the Milwaukee Public School Board of Education. So we'll be keeping track of that tomorrow. Also, sports related, the Badger basketball team will have Johnny Davis back on Friday when they take on Colgate in the first round of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Despite a season finale loss to Nebraska, followed by a rather inauspicious loss to Michigan State in the quarterfinals of the Big Ten tournament, they still managed to get a 3 seed in the Midwest Regional. They'll play in Milwaukee at the Fiserv Forum at 8:50 p.m. on Friday against Colgate. And then play again. If they win that, they'll play again on Sunday, most likely against Iowa State. Or it'll be Iowa State or LSU. I'm taking Iowa State. Also in sports, Forward Madison has signed Mikey Maldonado to a contract for the 2022 season. He joined North Texas SC. He's from San Antonio. He joined North Texas last season, coming in through an open tryout, and they got an invitation to the preseason camp and then made the team. He appeared in 26 out of the 28 games last year, including 15 starts. North Texas SC is not in the league anymore. They're moving over to MLS Next Pro. And he has been a free agent, and he's been playing with the Mingos as a trialist. And today they announced that they signed him, and it's kind of just a little behind the scenes here. It's kind of funny. For Madison, as does many organizations do this, they'll give what's called an embargo, right? They'll tell members of the media At noon today, we're going to announce we signed Mikey Maldonado. Here's the press release. That gives us time to look up any highlight video, find a photo, get a quote or two, just get something written up so that when they announce it, then we can announce it after they do. And that's kind of an agreement that we make with these organizations, that you tell us ahead of time, we won't announce it before you. It's not a big, but what was funny about today was I got word at about 10 o'clock, they said they were announcing a player. At 10:30, I got an email from the club saying we're announcing Mikey Maldonado. So I spent a few minutes just kind of looking into him, seeing if I could find some video, finding out who he was and what he's like. I mean, I knew who he was from last year playing for North Texas, but to just get some more information. And I found his Twitter account, and he had already changed his Twitter bio to professional footballer at Forward Madison FC. So I think he's excited to be here. That would indicate, if he's already changed his Twitter bio, I think that indicates something. He's excited to be here. He has played very well in the preseason. I only saw him play for a few minutes at the Marquette friendly. But my sources, not my sources, but other guys I know who have been to the other preseason matches have said he looks really good. And Eric Leonard, the center back and likely captain of this season, thinks very highly of him as well. So once again, that is the Fort Madison season gets underway April 2nd at Greensville, and then they will play host on Wednesday, the 6th of April, in the second round of the U.S. Open Cup at home against either Cleveland SC or Chicago FC, and then they host League Champions Union Omaha in their first league match on April 9th. I'm very excited. Can you tell? All right, that's what I have for you tonight. I hope you have a wonderful evening. We'll be back tomorrow with more news for you. Follow along at Madison365.org for all the latest, as well as on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And until we see you again tomorrow, have a great night.
This is 365 Media.